Good morning, guys. Today we're going to talk about preparing a budget. So, a budget is something you use in order to make sure you're going to meet all of your living costs for the month. Okay, so it includes amounts for food, utility, and pocket money, and they will vary from month to month because you have fixed expenses that never change, and then you have other expenses that may change. Okay, those are typically called variable expenses. And also remember, there are annual expenses, so things that you only pay once a year, such as real estate taxes. Sometimes this is car insurance, depending on how you have everything set up. So when we're working with our annual expenses to determine what our monthly expenses are, we need to take our annual expense, whatever it may be, let's say $1,000 for the year, and divide by 12 to figure out what the monthly share of that expense will be. All right, so example, the Millers use records of their past expenditures to complete the budget sheet in 3.2. After calculating their monthly share of annual expenses, find their monthly expenses, their total monthly expenses. Okay, so find the monthly share of annual expenses. If you were to go down here to their annual expenses, you will see, where did it go? Here's their annual expenses section. It's already been added up for you, and there is the total. Okay, so if you were to have a table like this, you would add up the annual expenses. You'll notice that it's typically insurance you pay once a year as well as taxes. And if you were to take that amount and divide by 12, which is already done for you, you would find the monthly share. So that's the monthly share of the annual expenses. Then you want to find the total monthly expenses. So when we go down, it's already been added up. Living expenses, fixed expenses, and then those annual expenses you just found. If we were to add all three of these up, and here it is shown, you would see the total monthly expenses are $2,480.25. All right, so concept checked. We're provided the annual expenses, the living expenses, and those are per month, and the fixed expenses per month. So to start this problem out, you need to take your annual expenses, the 4,200, and divide by 12 to find what they will be per month. So 4,200 divided by 12, you will get $350. Okay, so that's the monthly share of those annual expenses. So we're going to take the monthly share of the annual expenses plus our living plus our fixed. So 350 plus 670 plus our 800 to find how much the expenses are for the month. When you add them up, you'll get $1,820. All right, so there's concept check number one. Concept check number two is very similar. We're given the annual cost, so we need to take that annual expense and divide by 12. When you divide by 12, you'll get $291.17. And then add it all up. $291.17. You do need to include those cents. Some of you are rounding to the nearest whole number or the nearest dollar. Do not do that. We need the money correctly rounded to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so $291.17 plus the living cost of $475.75 plus our fixed cost of $679.65. When you add it all up, you will see their monthly costs or monthly expenses is $1,446.57. All right, So that is the preparing a budget. So now moving on to using a budget. So once you've completed a budget sheet of your past expenditures, like above, you can use it to plan for future spending. Okay, so you might want to prepare a monthly expense summary, and this is to help you stay within budget, live within your means. When you draft a budget, you should always include an emergency fund. Okay, things come up, an unexpected health bill, vehicle repairs. You never know what's going to happen, so it's nice to have that emergency fund. All right, so we have Frank and Minnie have always kept accurate records of their expenditures. At the end of March, they prepared an expense summary. They had planned to spend $340 on groceries, but actually spent $361.85. How much more or less did they spend on groceries than they had budgeted? Okay, so for our sake, we're not going to subtract like they have it, just because of how these questions are worded in the future, and you'll see in just a minute. You always want to take the amount you were budgeting, so $340, and subtract the actual cost, so $361.85. This doesn't make a huge difference as far as the number that you are over or under, but it will for the sign of the answer. So 340 minus your 361, you're negative 2185. Okay, and I want you to do this because this will matter when we go into our next chapter as well as down here. When you're negative, you are over budget. Okay, so there were $21.85 over budget. This negative 21.85 can also be called your variance. Okay, so we're going to look at a table like this because this is how you're going to see it. So this first example, we have Zoe and Douglas. Hamilton budgeted the $167.80. Okay, so that's my amount budgeted. The amount spent was $158.90. Our variance. So you find the variance by subtracting $167.80 minus the $158.90. Okay, so when you subtract $167.80 minus $158.90, you're going to get a positive, and I do kind of want you to show you that. I do want you to show that because that is showing that we have a positive left over, meaning we are under budget. So when this is positive, we are under budget. You will see it without the positive, so just keep that in mind. So number 2, Millie budgeted $647.50. She spent $671.92. So just looking at that, we know we're over budget. Go ahead and subtract to find the variance. $647.50 minus $671.92, and you'll get a negative $24.42. And right here with that negative, we know we are over budget. She spent too much on that than what she budgeted for. All right, now that you have this, I want you to go ahead and complete the assignment. Have a great day.